Hey,
Hey Tree, how's it going?
it's good. I'm super happy that you're here to hang out and chat about all things lucid dreaming, especially because you are one of the most prolific lucid dreamers I know. And
Oh,
it's true. You achieve lucidity every other night, it would seem. And you've only really got into lucid dreaming like kind of in the past year and a half. How long has it been?
yeah, almost a year and a half now. I,
Yeah.
I started on the first time I tried to go lucid was January 8th of last year.
And you've just been going from strength to strength ever since then.
Yeah, well, I have lots of catching up to do, so I got to do it.
Yeah, if you think about, we spend a third of our life asleep, and how many years that is, that's many years of exploring your dream states. Yeah, so I wanted to ask about lucid dreaming, mostly because you are such an explorer of consciousness in the dream states. You seem to push the envelope in lucid dreams as in its own right. In other words, a lot of people use lucid dreaming for entertainment value. Just flying around, having adventures. Kind of like one would with a video game. But your approach to lucid dreaming is very much like you learn things, very much like you're being schooled in many ways. In fact, you do have a lot of lucid dreams that involves like school settings and learning, and there's usually riddles there, and there's dream characters there that are teaching and showing you things. And I'm really interested in hearing about some of the more exceptional experiences that you've had in lucid dreams where you've been given like a eureka moment or some kind of clarity or insight from the dream itself. Now, it could be learning something within the dream. It could be learning some sort of physics within the dream itself. It could be some kind of insight that brought through something like a breakthrough for you upon awakening. Does any specific lucid dream come to mind when I'm talking about this kind of topic?
Uh, I'm not sure. It seems like every single night is an adventure, whether it's lucid or not. It's always amazing where you're like, oh, what did you do last night? They're like, sleep. I'm like, oh, well, I frickin' got told like the secrets to how the universe was built. I learned how to do this and this and this. So it's always crazy. But when you first mentioned the physics, it makes me think that that's pretty much was like my first year of lucid dreaming, or at least first like 6 months, where I figured the first thing that I better do before doing anything too crazy is to just understand the physics in the dream space. Yeah, yeah. So flying was actually one of my biggest ones. It kind of bugged me because everybody's like, "Oh, I fly in my normal dreams," and then here I am getting lucid all the time, and I couldn't even fly. And so I was like, "Oh, geez." So then I would try to jump like really high, and I'd go up in the air, but then I would just kind of like swing like a kite, and I was like stuck like on an invisible string, and it probably took me about 3 months where finally I had accomplished a goal where I thought, okay, maybe instead of trying to fly to Saturn, I'll just try to get to the top of a building because I haven't even done that yet. So, so my first time I tried, first I was just trying to speed run and I got like off the ground by like a foot or two. I was like, well, like not quite to space, but I'm getting there. And then I was just trying to get on a roof. And so in this one lucid dream, I had two false awakenings, which were really bizarre for me. And then after the second false awakening, I was like looking around, and I was like, oh yeah, I gotta get on top of a roof this time. So then I look behind me, and there's a 3-story house. I'm like, what's the odds of that? I'm like, can they give me like a little doghouse or something to climb? So then I look at the 3 stories. I'm like, oh well, I guess I got to do it. So I tried to cheat. I tried to just jump up the whole thing, but I only made it about halfway up, and then I was just like stuck in the air. So then I looked down, and then there's some actress, and she's just smiling, and I'm like, I could do it. And then I just started to kind of like swim through the air weird, and until I made it to the top. And then I got to the top of the roof, and then I was like, sweet. I'm like, I finally made it on top of the building. And then I jumped down, and then I just expected the dream to end, because usually whenever, like I always have goals usually, and whenever the goal is complete, then the dream usually just collapses. And but it was still going, and all of a sudden I was looking over a full dream city, and it got like super. I was like ultra lucid. It got super clear, and it was like the most amazing sight ever. And then all of a sudden the dream just gave me a platform, and it does this sometimes, and like a platform over the city, just like a little stepping stone. And as soon as I saw it, I knew that I had to step on it and just jump. And so I just jumped, took a leap of faith, and then ever since then, it's flying's become a joke.
So the dream was almost giving you like a baby step lessons
Yep.
on how to do it. And when you first started accessing your flight in a lucid dream, could you pinpoint somewhere within you, within your dream body, that you felt that this ability was coming from?
Um, I don't know. Uh, I've always kind of been under the understanding that you can do anything. And I always try not to let other people influence me too much. Whenever they mention anything about creativity or just almost about anything, I try to shut my ears, and I just want to figure it out for myself. And but yeah, just it's come a long way where if you believe in anything, anything happens is possible. Um, I know some people, they say they have troubles like going through walls and things like that. And the only time I've ever had a problem with a wall was when another like high level dreamer mentioned a wall, and then all of a sudden it appears in my dream. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I'm like, I got to be careful who I listen to.
So do you
But
feel that the your ability to fly within the lucid dream is based on your intention, your willpower, and that's what gives you the ability to fly?
yep, and yeah, it's cool. And sometimes you feel like I call it the energizing neurons, where one of the few things that transfers to the waking state is the kind of neurons firing in your body. And every once in a while, when I'm flying, I'll get that energizing neuron feeling, and that feels amazing. It's one of the best feelings ever. It feels like you could heal anything or accomplish anything. And but yeah, it's flying was a big thing for me because it was pretty much destroying all my like kind of physical beliefs.
Yeah, and that's interesting what you say about neurons flying, firing up and feeling like an energy. So, in the lucid dream, would you say that there's like a type of energy body that you're able to perceive a lot more than when you are awake with your physical body?
Yep, yeah, definitely. Um, and I notice it in all dreams too. Like I know some people, when they start talking about lucid dreaming, they say you could only uh, notice these things in a lucid dream. But all the time, especially lately, I always sense my energy body, and sometimes it seems like after a dream, either in the hypnopompic state or just randomly, I'll feel like I have control of my energy body. And sometimes I find it on the way from a dream going back to my bed. And all of a sudden, if I happen to notice it, I'll get like stuck in the ground or stuck on the floor or just stuck in air in my room. And then at that point, I didn't want to bring this up today, but at that point, then I could like, it's weird. You go out of you like roll or fall through your energy body, and then you have the vibrational state, and then you go out of body, out of whatever body that is.
So, do you think that there's potentially, hypothetically, various layers to the energy body?
Yeah, yeah. I was kind of listening to William Bielman with his kind of uh, exploration, and he seems to think that there's like infinite frequencies, kind of like, so there's like this dimension is the most dense, and then it just keeps working its way up, and then we might have like a certain body or vibration level needed to explore. And I always seem to explore places that I don't know 99%. It's always in these strange places that I have no clue, and but yeah, it always feels awesome.
And so you're speaking in the lucid dreams, you're always taken somewhere that's unusual, and then the dream presents this sense of learning or exploring the dreamscape.
All my dreams, and even out of bodies now, which I didn't want to mention, but even out of bodies, I thought like, okay, that'll be the one place where it's going to work out to be just uh, like this world, or the physical reality, or whatever. And I would just get to play in that state first because I'm probably at the like densest, lowest level because I'm just starting. But sure enough, I get taken to these weird places where there's like astral travelers or lost spirits or souls or who the heck knows.
And by the way, you can talk about astral projection in this recording. That's totally
Okay.
fine. Totally open to that. But there is almost like a tangible difference between a lucid dream and an out of body experience. Would you agree? Have you noticed that the a lucid dream and a lucid dream sort of scene or environment is tangibly different than experiencing an out of body experience when it comes to the environment? Have you noticed that difference?
I have, and I'm just new with kind of out of bodies and astral projection. I've been out of body a lot, but I would only say I've actually astral traveled, so got out of my room or out of the ground or somewhere strange, only a couple times. But yeah, for me, uh, it almost seems. I thought it'd be like, oh, like everything would look like spacious and stuff, but for me, it was more. I get taken to these like it's almost like a space station full of other travelers and souls and spirits. And but yeah, I kind of forgot like what you could even do when you go out of body and astral project. So that's been the hard part, just to get out of my room. And then I figured at first I would try to open my eyes. So I tried to open my eyes and they like opened kind of strangely. And it doesn't seem like you have the same control as in a lucid dream or physical state. And I guess it's all, I think it's like mental thought or whatever. And then I thought, I'm like, well, can I walk? Because I was just kind of floating strange. And then it seemed like I was walking, although I couldn't feel the ground. Then I was like, can I fly? And it was really weird trying that because everybody else in this, I call it an astral artery. It's just like this like big walkway full of travelers and who the heck knows who they are. And everybody was kind of like walking or floating, like looking like they were walking. And for me, I was just trying to fly because I've never done it before in that state. So all of a sudden I started flying and everybody's like looking like, who is this weirdo? And then I was like, can I go through things? And then sure enough, I started going through things, and it was fun just to try to figure out the physics of that new world now.
Yeah, and it is like so different. It does feel very different to the physics in a lucid dream.
Mhm.
In astral and in the out of body experience, you are very much in your own environment. So often when you leave the body, you know you're in your room. It feels like you're there in your room. It's not a dreamscape. Many people can actually look back and see their sleeping body. And there's also a sort of visual component to being in the astral plane. And it looks very much like a lo-fi version of our reality. I don't know if you noticed that, Troy, but it's got almost like a CCTV sort of footage. It feels kind of black and white or low res, or sometimes it can feel like green and white.
Mhm.
But it feels slightly different, and I always liken it to a little bit like when you go to a really slick website.
Mhm.
So reality is like the slick website. So it's got like all the, the moving pictures and images, it's in Technicolor. And then the astral plane is like all the code behind
Mm.
the slick website. So it's all the stuff that's just right behind it. And it can be kind of like a more low res version, so to speak. So I always think of that whenever I've had out of body experiences, that, that environment does have a feel to it as well. And it does look very differently. And certainly the physics work very differently there too. For one, it only seems like we can be there for a finite amount of time
Mhm.
before we're actually snapped back into our bodies. So it feels very rare to be able to be out for long periods of time. It's almost
Okay.
like, you know, when you dive down to the bottom of the ocean and you're holding your breath and you're down there exploring, you're like, wow, look at all the cool stuff at the bottom of of the ocean. And then you're like, yeah, but I got to go back to the other world up above because I'm going to eventually run out of breath. So sometimes I think it feels a bit like that as well. The physics there doesn't like really allow us to have our consciousness out detached from our body for too long. I've also noticed too that sometimes it can be very difficult to maneuver, difficult to float or move or fly, and sometimes difficult to pass through things. Sometimes it feels much easier to pass through a wall, and then other times it's like I can't get through, and then you're trying to really bring your willpower into it. But
Okay.
yeah, it's interesting. So very different from the lucid dreams when it comes to sometimes lucid dreams feels like you're almost more expansive in many ways, less maybe confined in the lucid dream space.
Mhm.
So yeah, let's back to the physics of lucid dreaming. And so learning to fly and working that out initially in the beginning when you first started having experiences. Now, is there
Mhm.
any other sort of physics that you've come across in the lucid dream that you've realized, wow, I'm able to do this. I'm able to, and knowing how to access certain abilities that you might not be able to access in, you know, our 3D waking lives.
Well, that's the thing. After, I don't know, after about like 8 months of it, so just at the end, like halfway through last year or 3/4 through last year, um, you could just do anything. So, like whenever you'd hear people like struggling with going through a wall, and even like people that are like into dream yoga, because one of the coolest experiences I've probably had, or one of the top ones anyway, was when I got in. I think it's called the clear light sleep state, where your body's asleep, but then your consciousness is aware, but you're in nothing. You're just in black void somewhere, and you have nothing, no body. Uh, I don't know. I don't even know how you could ever dream from that state, because you're just consciously aware in whatever void place. Um, so I started reading a bit up on dream yoga. They're like, oh, well, if you can do this, this, and this, then that'll help. And so they have like this long list of things like go through a wall and fly and do all these things. I'm like, well, you could do anything. And so I've literally, at one point I got bored and I just started stripping away like the whole scene. I was like, everybody has all these limitations and things, but like you can literally do anything. And so, yeah, I pretty much broke once I figured out how to fly. Everything after that fell really quickly, where you just break every single barrier there is. You can make anything or nothing.
And have you ever come up to an experience within the lucid dream where the dream wouldn't let you do something?
Yeah, lots. And yeah, I always have an interesting relationship with the guides that I find. That's one big thing that I really started to experimenting by the end of this year, or end of last year or the beginning of this year, was always finding guides. Every time I look over my shoulder now, I always find one, and they pretend not to notice, but then I totally call them out, and then they walk to me, and then they start talking to me. But yeah, I remember an earlier experience, the first time that I let the dream fly me, because I'm like, well, why am I doing the work? I'm like, I was just like, I'll let the dream fly me. So then I just asked the dream to fly me, and whoosh, I went. And I think I told you about this one where it ended up taking me flying past mountains and forests, and eventually it took me to this special school, and it seemed like it was like a test to go like next level. And he asked this one guide or whatever asked me. He took me to this little like shop, and he asked me to um, like pull this little lever on this kind of like little till machine. So like I pressed the lever, and then out comes this ticket, this like rolled up paper, and he looks at it and he goes, "Oh," he goes, "Apparently I can't let you in." And I guess I never fulfilled all the requirements, but I could hear just past the next door was like this amazing room of people doing all this lucidity training, and it sounded awesome, but yeah, I got denied.
Have you taken that, like that moment, I mean, that dream, as a prompt to try to go back to that school, to be like, okay, well, I nearly got in there, so let's, set some intentions to go back there? Have you felt that the dream was perhaps beckoning you? Because dreams can be very trickster in many ways. The dream itself can have like a trickster sort of consciousness that likes to teach through riddles, likes to teach through trickery as well. Um, did you follow up on that one?
I took it more. Yeah, I'm well versed with the trickery. I'm pretty sure I have people like Merlin and stuff in my dreams that like to just always throw tricks at me. But with that one, I felt it more like I just wasn't quite ready. I still had more lucid experimenting to do. So yeah, I just keep going, and then usually every second or third lucid dream that I have, I'll just let the dream take me, and I figure that one day they'll take me back there or somewhere else. Always new.
Amazing. And you're saying like there's a lot of guides that come up in your dreams. So you
Mhm.
see these dream characters as guides that are teaching you, that are conscious in their own right and being able to show you things in the dream states. What has been the most valuable guidance do you think you've received from a guide?
Oh, I've had lots. I've had some to do with like shadow work, which is probably the most important, but it's usually quite personal, just trauma and whatever stuff. So those have been probably the most profound. Um, then other times, one that was kind of neat is I saw this one and she tried not to notice, but when she saw that I noticed her, she was all happy, and then she ran to me, and she seemed to be like as if I were to have a revolutionary kind of girlfriend in the future. And she showed me this video. She just made this TV appear, and it showed a video, and it was some kind of like revolution in the future. And I don't know if it was going to be in this physical life of mine, or if it's going to be in another future life at some point. I'm guessing probably future life. And it's just kind of cool to know that um, like it like when we die or when our physical body dies, our consciousness is going to move on to the next kind of challenge, and I know that's in store for me in some parallel dimension or wherever the heck it is.
That's incredible. And would you say that lucid dreaming has tempered any fear around death?
Oh, there is no death. Your body will go, but all we are is, well, all I believe that we are is just our consciousness. And yeah, I just experiment with that.
Amazing. Let's talk a bit about precognition, because I know with the little scene that you were just describing from what that guide showed you on a television that appeared in your lucid dream of a future revolution, it seems like it held a little bit of a precognitive vibe there. And I know that you have become prone, you're actually quite prone to precognition. You've had a lot of little precog hits that have happened over the years, and you've been able to tick the boxes on that. And many of it comes through the hypnagogic state, the threshold state just before falling into sleep. Now, this is a really interesting liminal space. For any of you listening, we've got our brain waves slowing down, our body's falling into sleep, and we're moving into our sleep cycle. But if you're able to hold your awareness and your consciousness on that threshold, you can be the observer of some pretty interesting phenomenon, including visions and sacred geometry, sometimes flashes of light, and also hearing sounds as well. We can hear snippets of conversation. Sometimes it's electrical, technological sounds, strange buzzing sounds. And also in that state too, it seems as though we can access the timeline, either in, if there is a timeline, and we don't really know exactly how time works. Well, science would say it is linear, but this does throw into question the nature of reality and time. But in this sort of state, we can sometimes seem to access information of a precognitive nature, which is seeing something quite vividly, and then, or hearing something quite vividly, and then later down the line, when we're going about our day-to-day life, the thing happens and we're able to go, whoa, I saw that just before I fell asleep. Also in this state too, there can be a form of remote viewing that could also potentially be happening too. So in terms of precogs, and I know you like to experiment in the hypnagogic state, anything notably interesting that you've experienced in this sort of state?
I haven't done what I call hypnose in a while now, and I kind of got it from you, and you're always obsessed with the different hypnagogic and hypnopompic states. So I just always call them hypnos, even though sometimes it might be called remote viewing or just liminal, whatever. But yeah, like when I used to go to all your classes and things, and we were very connected, I would always try to use you as a target. And we had so many, it got to the point where I didn't believe you. It's like how, like every little time it seemed to work. And sometimes the connection would be strong, and for the odd time that you would say, nope, that didn't register with me. I'm like, well, I know it was you, so it did register somehow. I'm like, and you're actually, I always have to give you lots of credit for lots of things, but one thing about you is if there's ever anything that we haven't solved, you keep it in your mind. So it's something that might come up from the past or might happen in the future or something like that, and it always seems to come up. But it's also a hard connection to break. And I try to do it with some other people because I'm like, well, it works with Tree, I guess. So I'm going to start hypnoing other people. So I would do it, and sometimes it would work sometimes, but then every once in a while there would be like a dead hit. And this one time, all I saw was this hand reaching into this big glass kind of like jar or something. And then I was like, okay. And then the person I was trying to hypno said, nope, that's nothing. And then I just randomly went on Instagram, which is just kind of whatever. And then there's you, and we hadn't talked for a while at that point. And in your hand is in a big round jar, and you were doing, I think, one of your first kind of raffles for something. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, in that kind of state, there's always like these weird little things that you find.
Yeah, and that's exactly how they pop up in the hypnagogic state. It's like a really quick little scene of something, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's later down the line in your waking life where it comes into, wow, there it is. It's just completely manifested. So it's almost like a form of, some people could shrug it off and say it's just a happy coincidence. It's a some form of synchronicity. But perhaps there's something more to explore there, perhaps that we have as conscious beings abilities to somehow open up this sort of space to peer into what could be future timelines. Of course, this is all still up for debate because it flies in the face of our current construct of reality and science. But these things are changing, changing and changing and changing. And I think being an explorer is part of the exciting, paving the way to try these things out. How are we supposed to know about these things unless we actually go for it? And why not? Why not try? And I think too, what you're saying about sometimes it works with other people, sometimes it doesn't work, and I think that that's one big question, is why does it sometimes work and sometimes not work? And that maybe there's a sense of openness that helps that along. Because I notice even just with anything consciousness exploration, there seems to be like the number one key component is just having an openness about it. Almost like a playfulness, almost like a childlike approach. And that seems to almost be one of the secret ingredients towards the practice. I mean, part of it too is being incredibly disciplined, obviously, and making sure that you are engaged in this practice of lucid dreaming, or yeah, doing your reality checks, dream journaling, and also just having this sense of openness and adventure. So I think that that might go a long way and makes it accessible for some people. And I do know, like, just sitting with some people when I do sessions and readings with people, that sometimes it's easy to access information from some folks more than others. And I just think it comes down to the fact that some people are just a lot more open and just like, yeah, let's do this. And then it's just easier to access this sort of playfulness. So speaking of discipline, I know, Troy, you've got like an incredible discipline with your conscious dreaming practice. You journal and you do your checks, your reality checks. And I'm always so impressed on how you dream journal, because you are really organized with it and very systematic with it in terms of how you execute your journal. So I would love to ask you about that, because it might be inspiring for those who are listening, because I know it sounds easy, like, oh, dream journal, you just write your dreams down, but the way you do it is so kind of scientific that and you're able to, easily access dreams just through searching on keywords, etc. So please let us know how you navigate your dream journaling practice.
My dream journaling's a tough one. It's so I start off right before I go to bed. I put my phone on brightness on 0, and then so throughout the night, every time I wake up, I just record on my phone in the notes. And first, I'll start it by putting tomorrow's date, because there's a decent chance that my first wake up is going to be after 12:01 a.m. And so then I'll put it for that date, and then I'll put what my kind of nightly goal is. And lots of times, whether you get lucid or not, your goal will could happen. And then so I put my goals. I put my monthly goal, which I know that's one difference between you and I. You like to be more natural and flowy, which, by the way, flowy is my favorite state. I'll have to tell you about it at some point. But for me, ever since I read with Stephen LaBerge that goals seem to help, I've been very strict with goals and keeping. So like I have this is kind of more like at the end of the dream journaling, but at the end, like I have like a dream calendar where I just um, highlight every night that I get lucid. And now I add out of bodies and stuff. But yeah, throughout the night I record what position I'm falling back asleep in. So either looking to the left or looking to the right. I write down the time I wake up each time, and I wake up anywhere from, I don't know, 3 to 6 times at least every night. And so then my dreams, I end up recording anywhere from 3 to up to 9 if I'm having a kind of a shallow periods of dreams. So I dream a lot. Usually the dream journal takes forever. But yeah, at the very minimum, I'll record the title when I wake up, and I'll just come up with a quick title. And if there's any specific notes like numbers or words or anything that's more specific that are easily to forget, I'll try to write those down. Sometimes I'll just write down the whole dream and then make it work like a wake back to bed for the next cycle. But yeah, then after I've recorded in my phone for the night, then usually after work the next day, I transfer it all to a Word document. And at first I started off in a journal, and it seems more sacred when you write, and it looks like a treasure when you have like a beautiful dream journal. But I thought, if I ever have a fire and I lose my dream journal, I'm gonna die. So I ended up transferring all my stuff to a dream journal or a Word document, and it actually made things easier too. So when you do things like hypnose and things, if I hypno like a certain whatever, say cyclone, which I've done, and then you can just go Control F to find in your Word document, and just put cyclone, and every time that the cyclone comes up, it'll pop up in your dream journal. and you can use it for dream signs and all sorts of things. And it actually works as a dream journal and waking state journal, because I usually put some of the things that happened that day, and then I like to see if it influences my dreams. And then I put the dreams. Then sometimes I'll do the interpretations, and then if in the beginning I used to put dream signs, anything that I could use, and then whenever a dream sign appeared more than once, so hopefully I don't know 5 times in a week, then I'd start using that as a dream sign. But yeah, there's lots of things to do through dream journal, and being in a Word document really helps.
I think it's brilliant. And it's brilliant too, Troy, because like you said, you can search on your dream sign. So this is really helpful when you are deepening your lucidity skills, because you can use your dream signs as prompts for reality checks. So for example, you said cyclone, and so you've had a lot of dreams that have a cyclone in it, and that becomes officially a dream sign. So you're able to just quickly search and go, oh wow, I've had like 10 dreams in the past 9 months with cyclones. So a really fun thing to do, any of you listening, and why is it important to work with your dream signs, is that you can start doing reality checks when you're awake around the dream sign. So like for Troy, he could get like an image of a cyclone on his phone as like the screensaver on his phone. And every time you look at your phone, you do a reality check around the image of the cyclone. And the reason why that's important is that when we do reality checks, we train our consciousness to become very present and aware in the present moment, and to question our perception of reality. But doing it around a dream sign is really helpful, because your subconscious mind already recognizes the cyclone. It keeps popping up over and over in the dreams. So your chances of a cyclone popping up in a dream is pretty great, because it's already happened, say, 10 times in 9 months. And so if you're doing lots of reality checks around the image of that dream symbol, the chances of you having a dream and the cyclone pops up, the chances of you going lucid is pretty high, because you've already been doing your lucidity checks and techniques and reality checks around that image. So your dream journaling protocol is really awesome, especially for finding the dream symbols very easily, instead of having to go through like pages and pages and looking in your chicken scratch writing for a dream with the word cyclone in it. So
Yeah.
that's really helpful, and quite inspiring, the way you're going about it with documentation.
Yeah, for me, my goal is to always have 15 lucid nights, and then it could be however many dreams, but I just count the nights usually. Well, I count both, but I usually find that dream signs probably account for maybe 3 or 4 out of the 15 lucid nights in the month. So for me, I kind of do like all these different things. Like I'll just like all of a sudden stop now and look around, and like kind of do a state check in that way. Um, that kind of helps me a lot, like boost up my numbers. And then, but then the dream signs are huge too. For me, dogs is probably my biggest one, and it gets to the point where if I see a dog in a dream now, I just start laughing. I'm like, okay, I know this is a dream. And so I feel like the combination of doing like the spontaneous state checks and then the dream signs, it just boosts my numbers really. So it helps me go from, I don't know, just say 10 lucid nights to maybe 15 in a month. So yeah, I just kind of do as
Amazing.
much as I can.
Yeah, so dream signs, wow, they're really a big part of lucidity and the practice. So when you say 15 nights, is that like 15 nights out of a month you go lucid?
That's my top that I've done, and that's
It's
my
crazy. I mean,
that's my
great.
constant goal anyway. I usually
You're
go anywhere from
you're
yeah.
like a champion. It's crazy. Like, so that's like, I mean, basically half of the month you're like in a lucid dream. That's amazing. Like I said, you're the most prolific lucid dreamer I know, and the most humble as well. I love it because, and that's another thing too, is going lucid. It's not a competition. It's an individual pursuit, of course, but I think also it's a collective pursuit. I do think that lucidity and consciousness is actually like a collective um, a collective happening, and as one of us evolves, we all kind of evolve alongside. We're all part of this thing together. In fact, I do think that as we advance in our evolution as a species, that lucid dreams will probably just be commonplace for future humans, perhaps lucid dreaming every single night. So I do feel like it's part of consciousness evolution. And that's why I'm so fascinated with these realms of consciousness exploration, because there's so much scope. There's so much scope to be able to evolve. And you're definitely a pioneer in this department, having 15 lucid dreams a month. So it's like, go Troy, go humanity, we can do this, we can do this. So why do you think we lucid dream then? Why lucid dream? Why is it important to explore this and put so much time aside in one's life to develop a practice in order to be conscious and aware and in the dream state? Why should we do it?
Because it's awesome. Um, yeah, well, it's like I don't watch the news and I don't read the papers and anything. The only time I do is when I have a precog dream and I have to figure out what my dream's trying to show me. So that which happens often. But other than that, I don't even watch the news. For me, it's more cool to if we feel like this physical reality is just it's going to end anyway for this body. Might as well be in touch with the consciousness and our guides and our higher self and source or whatever is out there, and might as well be in touch with what's beyond right now. Screw finding out who mugged a convenience store yesterday. It's like, let's be in touch with the universe.
Yeah, so it's a place in which to connect with all that. It's a boundary dissolving, and it sounds also like quite transformative, because you mentioned that even some of the shadow work that you've worked through in lucid dreams has healed you or helped you transcend in some kind of way. So it sounds like that's also a very helpful attribute and something that you can glean from lucid dreaming. So anyone listening, there's more than just entertainment. There's also great healing to be had as well from the process. Like everything in life, hey, there's the happy moments and then the fearful moments too. And I know with dreams, sometimes people can be quite intimidated by both lucid dreaming and out-of-body experiences, because it can be unknown territory and quite daunting and scary too, because if you've ever had a scary nightmare or anything of that territory, you definitely don't want to go back. But how do you see lucid nightmares, and how do you navigate that?
Yeah, fear for me is probably the biggest setback anybody can have, and it seems like we all have it, but I feel like I feel like I'm in one of the top percentile of not caring. In the first few months, trying to get lucid and not even knowing how, I would just stay awake, and then I'd slip into sleep paralysis, and then you get all the scary things, and then I started using fear as my strongest lucidity trigger, and as soon as you realize that there's nothing to fear, then there's nothing to fear. And it sounds simple, but not too many people follow it, because like even like I'll meet like mediums and stuff around town, and just some other dreamers and other potential people that want to start lucid dreaming, and fear is the biggest setback. That lots of people, they don't even want to dream, never mind lucid dream. And but yeah, if you look at there's nothing to fear, then you can do anything. And I know I've gone way further than like probably my biggest uh, two things are uh, there's nothing to fear. You don't have to do whatever prayers of protection against the dark spirits. I freaking go. I don't care if I get my head chopped off. Um, just all a learning lesson. But yeah, if you believe in anything and you don't fear anything, then you'll do anything.
So you have any advice for anyone watching who is afraid? How can one move out of fear? before approaching the practice, or if you're in the practice and you want to, move more out of fear? What are a few things you reckon you can do to help that process?
Stop it. Don't fear. That's what you should do. And one thing that kind of helps is so, like you quickly see that in the waking state with all the synchronicities, everything's connected and the universe is always watching. And so you can look at all the obstacles during your daily life, and then also then in the altered states, in the dream states, and whatever states, astral states even. If you look at things that everything was designed for you, kind of pre-planned as an obstacle for you. And so say you have a scary monster come after you, then you run or you hide or you cry or scream. But and then you just keep on getting the same dream. Well, it's your dream doing you a favor. It wants you to get over it. So just get over it. And if you just believe that like there's nothing to fear, then you'll move past it. And yeah, like now my body doesn't even try to trick me with grim reapers anymore with in sleep paralysis. It's like screw it. It's like they're like, this guy won't move if he feels an itch. He's not going to be scared of the Grim Reaper coming to chop off his head. So now they don't even bother. Now I just get smooth sailing.
I want to ask too, with your lucid dreaming experiences, what has been to date the most mystical lucid dreaming experience that you've had?
Mystical. Well, there's been so many. Some weird ones that I've just kind of been trying to get into are going from lucid to out of body. And I'm just new with like astral projection and out of bodies, so I don't know for sure, but um, it's rare that I ever get stuck somewhere. And so this one time I was going through a wall, but it was a super thick wall, and it was really dark, and I didn't even care to think about what could be on the other side to make it an easy transition. And I actually got stuck in the wall, which for me is like 1 in 1,000 times. And so I got stuck on the wall, and then I'm like, oh, sweet. I'm like, I wanted to try this anyway. I'm like, I'm going to try to spin in the wall and go out of body. So I started to spin in the wall, and then the whole entire wall started spinning with me. And then it's funny that you mentioned about holding your breath, because all of a sudden I became consciousness, and my consciousness seemed to go to this alternate realm. And then it took me to this kitchen table in some house, and I was getting like right close to a guy, and I could tell that I was going to go into his body. So all of a sudden, it's almost a little bit like if you know Robert Monroe, what he calls, I think, locale 3, where you're almost like in a different dimension or like a parallel dimension. So I was just getting there, and I couldn't really breathe. And then as soon as I got into this guy's body sitting in a chair, all of a sudden I gasped for air, and it seemed like I just kind of became conscious in this guy's body. And all of a sudden I was like, and I was like breathing for air, and I fell back right off my chair, and I was like, holy crap! I'm like, where am I now? I'm like, what? Like I really did it this time. And then like I think I went too far, and then. So then I went and I looked across the table, and then I had a wife and a kid, and they're just looking at me like really, really strange. And then I probably didn't help the situation. I'm like, where are we? I'm like, what time is it? And then my smart ass kid, he's like, he goes, you have a watch, you can look yourself. And I'm like, really? And then, but it didn't seem like I had my lucid like powers in that state. So it really did seem like I was in that altered dimension. And so yeah, I want to try to go back there. I've done it a few times now where I went from lucid to what I think is out of body, and just by trying to get stuck, I'll like go through a wall. And I'm like, oh crap, and then I have to go back, and I'm like, I was supposed to get stuck, and then I have to like physically try to get stuck, and then I can try to like spin or fall out of body, and or what I think is out of body, who knows. And then you get these weird things. There's another really cool one about I call it Merlin's portal. You want me to say it quick?
Please tell me. Yeah.
Okay, so So for that one, I called it, actually, I forget what I called it, but this one I called it out of portal body. And I kind of feel like maybe people like Merlin or these different conscious explorers, they had these kind of like portal jumps that they used to kind of get around places. And so in this one lucid dream, I ended up being stuck to this guy, and I didn't know who it was at first, but I'm pretty sure it was Merlin because I looked way up, and he created this like mountainous kind of crater that had. I looked past, and there was Stonehenge, and I've never seen Stonehenge before except for that time, and I saw Stonehenge way over there, and it was really cool, and it seemed like I could look anywhere and be okay. But if I ever looked in the exact spot where his body was, like if I got right in line with his body, then I would be taken back to a normal lucid dream, or I would just wake up. And it makes me think that I want like a pendulum bed now, because I feel like if you get into the perfect position of whatever consciousness is in us, and like maybe a guide, then you can go to their certain realms that they've explored, and it's just really neat.
Those are really cool experiences. And like for both out of body experience of the transference of consciousness, you know, that's quite fascinating. And I know I've talked to a lot of consciousness explorers who've had similar, where it's all of a sudden you're experiencing another person's reality or an animal's reality. And I've had it several times too. And I'm like, hang on a minute, why am I on the floor running around? I'm looking at linoleum. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in like in a dog right now. And so that seems like something that pops up for a lot of out of body explorers. And really interesting too about your lucid dream with the vantage point, and then also Merlin and sleeping positions too. Because the ancient Egyptians actually would sleep in certain positions in order to access higher states of consciousness and dreams. I didn't really know this until like one of my colleagues, Sarah Janes. She's an amazing dream researcher,
She the
and
Egyptian, yeah.
yeah, she's into Egyptology. And I did a sleep temple with her last year here in the UK, where we reinvented as best as we could, reinvented an ancient sleep temple, because back in ancient Greece, you could go to temples in order to sleep and dream and heal in the dreams. They were called Asclepius, and you would go there in order to have these amazing lucid dream experiences and be healed by the gods within the dream. So the dream, inside the dream, you would be healed of your ailment. You'd wake up healed. And so these special temples were there. Anyway, I went to Hastings, where she lives, and we recreated one of these places through various techniques and hypnosis and working with various herbs. And anyway, she was mentioning about sleep positions of the ancient Egyptians. And when I stayed over at her house, I had 2 nights sleeping at her place. She said, you can use my room and I'm going to sleep in the guest room. And I was like, oh, thank you. So go into her room. Her room's amazing. It's like full of all like Egyptian iconography, even like the door that's, she has a door that says, please remember to close the door. It's written in like hieroglyphics, like the please close the door. But her bed was tilted up on an angle. And I was like, oh, wow, what's up with your bed? And the top part of the bed where your head would be was lifted up about several meters up high. I can't remember the amount of meters, but it was very specific to how the Egyptians sleep. So she's like, yeah, try sleeping there tonight. So I did. And so you're sleeping on this sort of incline, and so your head is up higher than your feet. And I'll kid you not, my first night I'm sleeping there, I had a lucid dream, and then I had an out-of-body experience from sleeping in her bed on that incline. And I woke up, and it was a really profound one too. And I woke up and I said to her at breakfast, I was like, you're not kidding, that works. I can see why the ancient Egyptians did that. There was something about that was a sort of alignment with the pineal eye. And that had a big part to do with it, of this kind of positioning. So maybe there's something to explore there, and I keep meaning to try to prop up my bed to do it that way too, to see if it affects dreams or consciousness exploration in the dream states.
I
But
think
speaking, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think it does because my top month of getting the 15 lucid nights and however many lucid dreams that was, it was like 20 or something. I was playing with pillows and I'd start off with like one like super thick pillow where I was all raised, and then after 6 hours sleep, then I would switch back to a flat one. And I don't know for sure, but I think there's something to do with either the cerebral fluid in our head or something. But every sleep cycle, I always change positions because I feel like if you get too comfortable, it's harder to get lucid. So for me, I switch every single one. And then when I also add inclining and declining my head and switching, then it's like a formula for success.
Amazing. And I know in your journal you actually, you record that, the sleep positions that you experience with certain
Yep.
uh,
What pillow? I record everything.
that's fantastic, Troy. I love it. That's great. I wanted to get back to the concept of healing in dreams. The ancient Asclepius, as I was mentioning, places to go to actually have to be induced into lucid dreaming and to have dreams to meet the goddess Asclepius, the healing god in the dream, to heal the body in the dream in order to wake up healed of your ailment. Now, I know that you've had your own experiences in lucid dreams where you decided, hey, I'm going to try to heal my knee because it's in a lot of pain. And you had some interesting results. Now, there's a lot of different studies going on right now. I know my friend Charlie Morley, a colleague of mine, he's been gathering information on people who've healed themselves in lucid dreams, like physically healed themselves. So, not talking about emotional healing, but this is like physical healing. So, I'm really curious to hear about your experience in lucid dream with your knee being a bit dodgy and it was in pain for a week, and you decided to try to go for it. You're like, why not? Let's try this.
Yeah, yeah, I should do that more. My whole body's like a wreck, and I keep thinking that, like, I probably have a list of like 20 problems right now with my body, and I still think I'm like, as long as I have one breath, I'm like, there's still more fun things to do than heal this body. But yeah, for that time, I ended up, I was listening to Robert Wagner, an audiobook, and he's basically said to get some healing light or something like that. So I got lucid and it was pretty hazy and it was really dark. I was in a basement and there was no light at all except for in a light bulb that you can just see, and you can see there's just like a little bit of light in the filament, and it wasn't even like a bright light bulb. It was just that little bit of light, and I wanted to call for light to come heal my knee and give me a whole kind of like energy ball of healing light. And I'm like, I guess that's the only light I got. So then I held up my hand, and then the light came from the filament and went into my hand, and it kind of made like a little ball. And I was like, well, I guess that's it. So then I put it to my knee, just saying that to heal my knee. And a lot of people say that it's the placebo effect is the contributing factor. But for me, I'm a skeptic. Um, I always say that when I experiment and do things, I take 2 or 3 steps forward, but then I have to take like 1 or 2 steps back just to keep myself in check and make sure I don't read into things. So I was like the opposite of the placebo effect. The whole next day when I woke up, um, as soon as I go down the stairs to the basement, I'll feel it in my knee if there's pain. And I waited till like 6 o'clock that night before I even wanted to go down because I felt like it worked, but I don't think it did. And so I did like the anti-placebo effect. I'm like I don't think it worked at all. And then sure enough, at 6 o'clock that night, I went down and my knee didn't hurt. I was like, ooh, what the heck? And then and then I ended up going up and down like all different ways multiple times, and I'm like, this is genius. I'm like, I should just do this once a month. But yeah, there's that time, and when I one time that I don't like to tell too many people, the coolest time was when I was in the clear light sleep state, when I was just nothing, and I tried to will healing rays of energy to my girlfriend's dad who has cancer, and I tried to get him to reduce his cancer and then come out of depression and start to go out to dinner and do all these different things. And sure enough, the next day, um, his cancer was reduced, and he invited us to dinner, which it had been months and months because he was going through a rough time. And I tried all little things. I think the very first time that I tried to reach out to you back in like March or April of 2020 is I even tried to put like dinosaurs in my girlfriend's head just to see what could be done, and it worked. And so I was like, oops, I'm like, I better not do that again.
Actually, I had a lucid dream last night with dinosaurs in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. I woke up thinking about you. I was like, that's so funny. But incredible experiences, exceptional experiences with the healing within lucid dreams, and seeing effects when you've awakened, and
I,
amazing to explore that.
I got one that I finally just recently did. Um, so I know that chakras are one of my issues. I haven't learned what they are really yet. And and I looked, and there was like a YouTube video that was like 2 hours long to clear all your chakras. I'm like, 2 hours? I'm like, screw that. So then I'm like, I'll just do it in the next lucid dream. So instead of learning anything about chakras, I'd get lucid, and then I just said, I'm like, okay, dream. I'm like, clear and heal all my chakras, and then all of a sudden I lifted up in the air, and I felt all this kind of energy and tingling all over my body, and I was kind of like laying back, like kind of just floating in the air, strange, and letting it happen. And then all of a sudden, all the dream characters started to clap, which is pretty rare for me. Um, I don't often do good enough things for them to clap.
Amazing.
But then after that, I've been able to go out of body. So it's almost like I had to like clear my energy body and get it like maybe less dense or something, so that now I can start navigating the next level.
Wow, that's so cool, Troy. And you did it in the dreams. You're like, screw the 2 hours of watching a YouTube video. I'll just do it in a lucid dream.
So I
But
still
it's
know
great.
nothing about them, but I think I'm good.
That's fantastic. Interesting though, too, that the out of body experiences started to become activated after that lucid dream. So amazing. The interesting kind of timing with that. Wonderful. I so a last one last thing is a tip for anyone listening, if who's interested in to start a lucid dreaming practice or path. What would you recommend as a kind of very simple starting point for anybody interested in listening?
Probably come find me and you. But you have to immerse yourself in material. It seems to help. You have to want to do it. You can't fear. If you believe in anything, it'll help a lot. So that's when you have to be kind of careful on who you watch. If you watch anybody that has any kind of limiting beliefs, if people are telling you that lucidity is control and those kind of things, I would stay kind of more away from it. Just lucidity is just awareness in a dream, and it's actually fun to let the dream have the control, or at least take you places. And yeah, just keep positive, don't fear, believe in anything, and and don't even believe anybody. Don't even believe me or you that if we say something can't be done, which I don't think we would, but maybe. Nah, probably not. But but yeah, just believe in anything.
So that openness, like being
Yeah,
really open.
yeah.
Yeah, like being a couple big kids like us, huh?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that drew me to you. Like when I started to research dream yoga after my clear light sleep state, they're like, oh well, if you can put your hand through a wall, which we sometimes still don't do, and if you count the blades of grass and go to a mountain and do a prayer, you can get to this state. Um, then I hear you in an interview, and you're like, ah, just screw it, I'll just try it. And then you're always so free and open, and you accomplish things. For me to get in a clear light sleep state, I didn't have to do all these crazy things. All I did was have some coffee before to bed and got ready to rock.
I tell you, intention goes a long way. And
Mhm.
just having like the spirit of adventure and exploration is part
Yeah.
of this amazing experience called life and consciousness exploration. So amazing to chat with you, Troy. Fantastic. And I'm sure we'll catch up again and go more in depth about the out of body experiences that you've also been having and how cool and prolific that is. So thanks so
Sure.
much, Troy.
All right. Thanks, Tree. Nice catching up with you.